Hello and welcome back to another video on SQL. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover the two important topics of creating a database in PostgreSQL database using PGAdmin form, also using and also dropping a database using if exists conditionality. To start, as you know by now, the database structured collection of data that we use to store and retrieve and work with data efficiently. And so when it comes to each database management system, we have, there are ways for you to create a database and then remove those databases. So when it comes to PGAdmin 4, which is the platform I use um, for teaching SQL tutorials that I'm doing right now, and in PGAdmin, the concepts are the same. You need to create a database, and then based on that database, you create tables. And as you can see, I have two databases within the Postgres 16 server connection that I created here. And there are two databases here. One of them is by default, and the one's Art of Numero, which is a database I created under which I have a table called the World Indicators table I've been using for all of my demos so far. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start with the create database, right? And so the create database, there are two ways you can do this, just like when you want to create a table within a database. The first way is to use the manual feature that's available within the PGAdmin GUI, which is nothing but making a right click on the database marked here, and then click on create, and then click on database where you can create your own database. Let's say we're going to call this DB1 and we're going to save it. And there are a bunch of other options and parameter and definitions you have to assign each time you create a database. We're going to leave that for this video and not get into details for the database. Click on save, and there you go. You're going to have your database. Now we have a new database called DB1. And as you can see, there's one schema, public schema, and there are no tables under the public schema. So we just created a database using the very basic manual ability that's available within the PGAdmin in PostgreSQL. All right, so how do we do this? And when we have to do it through SQL, DDL statement, a data definition statement. So it's pretty much using the syntax of create database, just like we use it for creating a table. And that would be create database and then assign it the name of the database. So in this case, we just want to create a database called DB2. And then we're going to go ahead and run it. And you're going to see, just like we have DB1 created here, we're going to have a DB2 created. But for that, we need to refresh our environment for that to take effect. And there you go. We now have a DB2 database created here. And the only thing is they're not case sensitive, but remember that the database names are case sensitive with depending on what you really use. But when it comes to PostgreSQL using PGAdmin, they're not case sensitive. So this is why I put DB2 and it's here as DB2 small caps. Let's say if I create a third database here called database 3, and this time I make these small cap D and a big uppercase B and a 3 now this time, you're going to see that it's going to automatically mark that as DB3 with no effect from the, one second. Oh, I made a mistake with, I'm not adding the A there. Let's just refresh it now. There you go. We have a DB3, and as you can see, it doesn't matter how we put it in terms of case sensitivity. We still have a uniform way of uh, naming convention. That's everything is within small cap. So it's pretty easy, right? Just create a database and using the syntax of create, and then give it the parameter and then the name. And that'll do it for you. So that was one of the ways to do it using the uh, the syntax or the actual statement, and we also learned how to do it through a manual system. Now, what if you would like to drop a database? Now, we would like to drop one of these databases, and there are two again. So there's a manual way of doing it, and there's the uh, statement way of so syntax scripting way of doing it. So the manual way is pretty much to right click on that database of concern and then click on delete. So there are two types of delete. There's delete force and there's delete. So the delete is going to remove the database that you select um, for that particular database that you select, and the delete force actually terminates all dependency and connection that database have. So some of the database have dependencies. So when you do a force delete, then you're going to also delete those dependencies or those connections between other databases. So these databases were just empty. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on delete, basic delete, and go ahead and click on yes. And so that's the database, and now we delete it. Now, if we were to do it through if we were to do it through statement, we're going to use what we call SQL drop database statement, which is used to delete an existing table. And what it does is it drops just like the tables. I explained the delete and drop table. Same thing with database. Drop actually deletes all existing features within a database. Either it includes including tables, indexes, views, constraints, everything within a database. Like as you can see, within a database, we have a wide range of things that that comes with it. We have schemas, and then we have the functions, we have the tables, we have the trigger functions, we have the times, the sequences. So when you drop a database, you're pretty much deleting everything that's underneath it, including physical tables, like views, the non-physical tables, procedures, constraints, everything. Before you drop a database, just a practice. Make sure that you have backed up your database. Either you do it through the PG admin or you do it through some other methodologies. But make sure you have backup your database. Make sure that your database that there's no that you're not actively using an application with the database, so it doesn't cause a problem there for you. And then also make sure, just like when you create or when you drop a table, make sure that you have the needed privilege to delete a table. Same thing applies with database when you're attempting when you need to drop a database, and make sure that you have the privilege, such as admin privilege of modifying database, which you can also include dropping database. So let's go ahead and now look at the syntax of dropping a database. So the syntax for dropping a database is pretty much similar to the syntax you would use to drop a table, and that starts with drop and then database and the name of the database. So in this case, we're going to do DB3, and let me just capitalize DB just to demonstrate that uh, you know that PostgreSQL using pgadmin 4, you don't have to worry about case sensitivity. And so once you do that, you're going to go ahead and click on run. Also, it's saying that there's one other session using the database. The database DB3 is being accessed by other user. The error database DB3 is being accessed by other users. So apparently we don't have no dependency between any of the databases. We don't have any shared we don't have any shared table relationships. We don't have any sort of connection between the databases, any bridges. So it's still telling us that it's being accessed by another user, and that's very common, especially when you're using pgadmin 4 and you're not actually connected to a server. So it's just thinking that you're doing something while the database is either open or being used by other users. And let's say let's create a couple more databases. Actually, DB4, DB5. We have plenty of them here. database DB4 and DB5. Right, and oops. All right, so as you can see now we have a bunch of them. And a database, while it's created, if unless you open it, it's going to be in disconnect mode. So as soon as you click on this arrow, it becomes connected. So one of the ways that you can actually drop a database is that actually you need to disconnect it. Otherwise, uh, uh, SQL is going to go crazy and think that you're doing something while the database features are already open actively by either other users or yourself. So uh, either that or restarting your IDE. There are a variety of ways you can actually take care of this. But let's see if we can disconnect it here. Disconnect from database. This specific database data mark. We disconnect it by clicking on uh, disconnect from database, and then let's see if we can drop it now. It's running. And there you go. It's successful. So both our theories tested as valid. First, that we need to deactivate or disconnect that database to make it, not make it not be active, just like the others. And the second one is that my theory that it's not case sensitive, while the database name was DB3 in small cap, but I wrote DB3 up in uppercase, and it still recognized the database. So let me go ahead and refresh it. You'll see DB3 is now gone. So there you go. Now, what if we wanted to get rid of or drop a bunch of these databases? Let's say we want to get drop DB4 and DB5 this time. Let's go ahead and disconnect it. But disconnecting is one of the ways that have worked for me, but you can find your own solution to it. Maybe again restarting or running the query from a different database. Since remember, I'm running all of these queries from this database. So while you're running a query from within the database, and of course, it's going to tell you that you're actually actively using the database, and you're actually querying against the database and you want to drop the database, it's impossible. So now let's do dropping multiple databases. And that is say drop database, and then let's put DB4 and DB5. Let's see if multiple dropping is possible. I haven't even checked. All right, database DB4, DB5, set it there and there. All right, so database DB4 and DB5. So this is uh, this is possible with the tables, but apparently it's with the column, but apparently it's not possible with the databases. So just go ahead and do it individually. Okay, this is good. Then let's just drop DB5. I'm surprised that this is not possible with a DDL for a database DB5. And as you can see, it's uppercase and these are lowercase, still runs. There you go, successful. I'm going to refresh it. See, 4 and 5 are gone. And the last part that I'm going to review really quickly with you is dropping a database based off of if exists statement. So what happens is with the if exists, the drop database if exists statement includes a condition to check whether a database exists before even trying to delete it. So for example, the database does not exist in the database system, just as you saw it here, the drop database if exists statement does not erase any error, but simply terminates without taking any action. So let's say we wanted to drop database, if that database exists, let's say, we say drop database, right? Let's say it exists, and then put, let's say, XXYY, right? So here's the database that we are saying drop if it exists. And when you run it, it says it does not exist. So it's saying skipping drop database. But if it does exist, then it's going to drop it for you. Let's say this time we're going to say drop db1 if exists. Okay, Okay, DB1 should exist. So they drop database if exists DB1. So database D1 does not exist. Skipping drop database. Let's see. Maybe DB1 is delete. What about DB2? Oh, just like earlier, we need to make sure that we disconnect the database from the database system. Now let's run it again. Let's just skip and drop database. All right, let's run a refresh. Oh, sorry, deleted. So what about let's create database 4 and let's see, database does not exist. Let's create database 4 here again. Come back here, refresh this first of all, and let's run it here again to make sure our if exists uh, conditionality works. There you go. Database is dropped, so we refresh. It's refreshed. So if it exists, it's just nothing. Just an additional layer of the conditionality. Whether you're asking, you're assigning a condition to the database to say if this exists, then go ahead and drop it. If it doesn't exist, then just give me an error. I mean, I don't even see the very phenomenal applicability of this while dropping a database. But I think it's just a good way for us to to see if a database exists to be dropped and for SQL to return an error or some sort of prompt message to us to tell us if that database exists or not before even knowing if it was dropped or not. And it has applicability maybe with uh, database servers where there are like dozens and dozens of database. And, it could be handy in those kind of situations. Uh, Thank you so much. I tried so much to squeeze this into uh, in 6 7 minutes, but I hope that this was, although it was long, but helpful enough to get you started with creating a database and dropping a database when you need it. Thank you for your time. Take care.